stash for 3 weeks of good luck. The offer ends September 30th. So make sure you take advantage of it. All right, moving on down, there's Gorgeous Marie, JR, AA Ron. Good to see you all. Thank you for coming on in. As we continue our scrolling down, Boz Monster, good to have you back. There's the gorgeous and talented Amy Vegas O. Long Island Bigfoot, the gorgeous Sonyan's News. How are you? And we continue on. Phil Minervino, good to see you. Glenn John McEnroe, the pride of Wimbledon. And there she is, everyone. Gorgeous Jenny. And who else do we got here tonight? Scroll down, scroll down. Blue-Nosed Witch, welcome to Spaced Out Radio's channel. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you don't mind. Rooted in Gorgeous Sacredness, good to see you. Game Vet, Sweet Donnie D, The Quick, good to have you all here. And there's 405er, Mr. Moocher, welcome. And we appreciate you. JJ Cryptids, welcome to the show. And we got about 20 seconds here. The Evil Jim, what's happening? Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. And I think we're caught up. We are caught up. Remember, the Super Chat is a great way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button, ring that bell. We're here 7 days a week. Thank you to all the veterans tuning on in. Everybody, get your horns up. Here we go. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Oh, I love this time of the month. Why? Because Varla Ventura is back, and she is one of our favorites who comes in once a month for a little ditty we call Our Cryptid World. Varla, of course, is a published author. Her most popular book, Varla Ventura's Paranormal Parlor, Ghosts, Seances, and Tales of True Hauntings. And there's so many more. You could just go to any major bookstore, find her books. We're going into the paranormal tonight with the lovely and talented Varla Ventura. And Varla, always welcome to Spaced Out Radio.
Why, thank you. Such a pleasure to be here.
Well, we kind of like having you here. We do.
Reflection in there. Oh, yeah, you guys are very nice to me. You are always very, very nice to me.
Are we number one?
On air.
Are we number one? Just be honest.
Yeah, you're super number one. Yeah.
Yes.
That's why I'll stay up late, no sleep, don't care. Spaced Out Radio. So I'm here for.
Thank you. I suffered an injury tonight. I suffered an injury. I was eating dinner and I bit my lip.
Oh.
And now my lip hurts. I've got like a big mark right there. Right
Bummer.
there. Yeah.
Avoid pineapple. That's my advice.
Yeah, I don't eat pineapple. Dave doesn't like pineapple.
No citrus. I actually bit my tongue so badly the other day that I drew blood.
Wow.
So I'm with you. Yeah.
Well, look at those choppers. You got a mouthful of teeth.
Yeah, there's a couple of real sharp ones too.
That does not surprise me. That does not surprise me. Yeah. So has hockey season started for your son yet?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of never ended, but yes, it has. Well, like officially it starts, tryouts are next week, I think. Tryouts start next week. Next week? Yeah, next week. And then the season will kick off mid-October or so. But there's a fall warm-up camp and, a couple little like training sessions and stuff that he's already been doing. So, yeah.
My son started
How about
last
yours?
night. He started last night, and I felt sorry for him because we didn't have a chance to let him break in his brand new skates. So yesterday was his first practice on his brand new skates, and I was just like, like about 45 minutes in, the poor boy couldn't even stand. But you know what? He fought through it. He refused to go soccer player. He was a hockey player right through.
Didn't lay down. He didn't lay down on the ice.
And he fought through it.
Just powered
and
through.
after when we went into the dressing room afterwards, and he took his gear off, and he's just sitting there, and he's got that kid sweaty look where the hair is all messed up from the helmet, and he's like
so cute.
And he was just so happy, and he's drinking his water bottle, and I'm undoing him skates, and I'm like, dude, you worked your ass off out there. And he's like, did I really, Dad? I'm like, yeah, you did.
Aww.
Yeah, you did. I said, I'm pretty proud of you, considering you didn't skate all summer.
That's awesome. That is an awesome feeling. Yeah, my guy, as you know, is a goalie, which you have your own feelings about that, but he did a pickup game recently, and just kind of filled in for another goalie, and the teams, they were like grossly outmatched. His team was very outmatched. The other team was way, way, way older and better and just faster, and it was like a 3-on-3, and he took so many shots, and he blocked maybe a third of them, but he had no defense assist there. So but when he got off the ice, we said, thinking, he's going to be dejected because it was like 30-10 or something, the final score, And he was like, it was great because he just took so many shots. He had so many shots on goal. He loved it. And I thought, yeah, okay, you're the right position then, because he didn't really care that they had, I'm sure he knew early on they weren't going to win. But he just liked that challenge. So yeah,
holy cow! The poor kid saw more rubber than Route 66 on a summer afternoon.
Seriously,
holy cow!
I'll tell him that exact phrase. I'm going to use that phrase and act cool.
Isn't that a good one? You can use that.
That's a good one.
You could totally use that.
Yeah. So then he might say, "What's Route 66?" And then I'll say, "I have failed as a parent," and that'll launch into something else. What? I feel like I'm crooked in this.
It's because you only have one shoe on.
Crooked.
That's why.
Oh, you know what? Actually, I knocked it over. No, it's not a whiskey bottle. I'm just going to show you. I don't have shoes on. I have fuzzy slippers on.
Well, you only got one on then, so nonetheless.
No,
Varla, you are one of our more popular guests when it comes to monsters, cryptids. Every month, we always have people asking about you when you're coming on and what you're going to be talking about. How much do you love what you do? I know there's a sacrifice. That sacrifice is financial, because there's not a lot of writers.
Paranormal don't pay well.
No, but for you, why do you love what you do?
Well, I mean, I think in particular, the being able to write about this kind of stuff is exciting for me. And I think, I really love finding like-minded people within a community to have these kind of discussions with. I actually have pretty intense metaphysical and paranormal discussions with my mom on a regular basis. And it's interesting because it's about the only thing that we can really talk about anymore. Sometimes, things get lost in the details and trying to plan things or, seeking answers for things, not always that effective. But if we have a good, solid discussion about, the fairy kingdom, what it means to go through the fairy kingdom, how those things are represented in writing, various theories about the cosmos and the universe, those kind of discussions, we'll have these very intense, 2-hour-long phone discussions. So I really enjoy that. I think I got my love and interest of that from her. And I think it's, it's great that we can kind of talk about this stuff and not consider the other person completely loopy. Because of course, like most weirdos, not every member of my family is, on board with the paranormal or discussing, witchcraft and things like that. So, and cryptids and all of that. Although I do have a good contingent of my family that, they listen to this show. My nieces and nephews are totally into cryptids and weird things in the woods, and they live out in the woods. So, a little bit of a family love of the strange there. But yeah, I mean, it's worth it. It's, I will admit, I do take on other like editing work and occasionally writing for hire work, like copywriting and stuff, because it pays a lot better than writing about fairies.
Really?
Now anyway, right now it does. But
come on, you're not making millions.
Millions! I'm making millions of pennies. I have millions of like Scrooge McDuck and just fill my house with pennies and swim through them. And yeah, I mean, it's. I think that's something that when you are an author, most authors I know that are writers in kind of like a niche or a genre, especially of the paranormal or cryptids or folklore or the occult arts. They usually write a lot of books or have quite a few books published, and they get a little bit of royalties here and there, and they get invited to conferences. And I don't know too many one-hit wonders in the and kind of like this sort of paranormal writing community. It's not like writers like Stephen King who get these advances against royalties and things like that, of course, but. There are some people who've had quite a bit of success, writing under. You have to be able to kind of crank it a little bit, and that's where I have sort of really slowed down the last couple of years with what I'm writing about and what my ideas are and who I want to publish with and things like that. So, but it's great. I consider myself extremely lucky to actually. Live a lifestyle that I like. Right?
Don't blame
I
you.
Wake up every day going like, ugh.
Don't blame you. You know what? We actually had a pre-phone call conversation before the interview, and we were like, what are we talking about tonight? And we both decided we were talking about nothing. Whatever comes up.
Yeah.
Whatever comes up. So
we're going there.
The first topic has come up.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
You mean the second topic, because we were talking about hockey, but...
True. Well, this is going to trump hockey right now. Spooky Morales says, I love it when Varla talks gnomes and fairies.
Awesome.
So let's start off with the gnomes. Where do they go during the fall and winter?
So I just want to say, on a side note here, I actually learned in the last 3 weeks, I have learned some pretty cool stuff about the fairy kingdom that I didn't really know it, or I didn't really fully understand where it fit in the schema of like mythology and things like that, specifically Celtic mythology. So I'm excited if we want to talk about that, because
let's do it.
There's some things that I learned.
Let's kick it off.
So gnomes, I think gnomes. Well, okay. So here, this actually answers that, and also talks about the thing I wanted to talk about. Very politician of me, but so one of the questions that I get a lot, Dave, not unlike the where do gnomes go in the winter and the fall, but I do get questions a lot about why we cannot see like our fairies just like around us all the time. And then if they are, why can't we see them? And, where do they go? And is it a parallel dimension and all, things like that, which are really valid questions and things that I've wondered myself. I do think that people that are able to see these things do have a gift, do have the second sight, have a certain sensory perception that not everyone in the populace has. But I also think that the fairies will reveal themselves, right? So one of the stories that I just heard is about the son of the sea god, and his name is Manon MacLear. And it's interesting because I read a couple things about him when I was working on my mermaid book, and then he sort of resurfaced. And then I was listening to a podcast a few days later, and they started talking about him. And who he is he's the son of the Celtic sea god, who I think his name is Lear, I'm pretty sure. But anyway, Manan Mac Lir is the son of the sea god. And he's the guy that, like, the Isle of Man is named after. And the story is that when the Fomorians were fighting the fairies in Ireland, and the Fomorians were the mortals and the fairies were the immortals, basically, there were like a couple different like fairy war battles specifically in Ireland. And I think they were called the Fomorians. I think I got that right. Anyway, so in order, the fairies were going to leave. They were just going to like, okay, fine. We were defeated. The mortals are staying. They're taking over the island. Like, this is getting intense. Manan Mac Lir came out of the sea, and he has many gifts. And one of the things that he has is this cloak of, some people call it a cloak of invisibility. But it's basically the fog from the sea, right? And so he gave this cloak of invisibility, or this ability to completely cloak oneself, to the fairy, to the fairy people, and so that they could use it whenever they want to completely hide themselves from human eyes, and they can remove it when they want to reveal themselves. And this idea of a cloak of invisibility appears throughout mythology again and again. So I thought, well, that's really cool. And then I started reading about how the Isle of Man actually is very, it has this fog that completely encompasses it. And it said, they still call it like, the sea god's fog, or the fog of Manan Mac Lir. And it's just really kind of this cloaking situation that shrouds the whole island, and they believe protects them. And also, this is a connection with the myths of Avalon. And they actually think that there's some connection between the Arthurian legend of Avalon and this magical island, and the Isle of Man, and the story of Manan Mac Lir. So now I know when people ask me, well, why can't I see fairies? Are they around me all the time? Now we know why, because they actually possess the ability to cloak themselves when they want and reveal themselves when they want, thanks to the son of the sea god. So I think that long way around the barn there, gnomes hang out all the time. Now, you and I, Dave, we live somewhere where it gets quite cold in the winter, so our gardens aren't verdant and green. So maybe they go places where the gardens are a little greener sometimes. But there's basically, like, if you think of it as sort of a miniature of like something that we might do in the winter. So there could be some hibernation, some, hanging indoors, maybe hanging inside your own house, maybe going in a cave. But I think that fairies are tied to the seasons, and they can like disappear and reappear. But
almost like their own migration. Or do you think they maybe burrow themselves in inner Earth where it's a little warmer?
I mean, it probably depends on where you live, right? Because like in Ireland, it does get cold, especially in the northern parts. It can get fairly cold in the winter, but it's not like, where you and I live. It doesn't get so cold that, you'll die of hypothermia overnight, right? So I think that, but it's not necessarily perpetually green and lush and beautiful at that time. So there are points in the year, just as we have like these magical holidays, these points in the year are times when the veil's thinner, and sort of like fairies are running amok, and they pass through, and they move that veil actually themselves. And those are usually tied with the seasons. So at like, maybe they just kind of like chill for a while, but at Samhain, Halloween, right? That's when we are like peak fairy crazy creature season. I mean, that's when basically like the Morrigan opens up the gates and all the creatures come flying through from the other world. Because in the Celtic mythos, the other world where the fairies live is the underworld. It is that other kind of invisible, unseen world where ghosts and banshees and werewolves and gnomes and everything all kind of dwell together.
Very cool. So basically what you're saying is Halloween for all of these little cryptid creatures is like New Year's Eve for them. And then they go their merry ways to get ready for the cold of winter, and then they come out once the flowers start popping up again.
No, they come at also solstice and around like the Christmas holidays. That's a time of high magic and very, very thin veils, and a time when you can pass through the worlds very easily. A lot of people don't realize that or know that, but there are quite a few legends surrounding either the winter solstice, which would be in Celtic mythology, but even in like modern Victorian England, you saw a lot of Charles Dickens would even write about the 12 nights of Christmas, and that those were times when magic was afoot, and you had to be careful because you might get, snatched up by witches and the devil and be rode off into the night. So there's other times, so that the winter season has the winter solstice. You have the beginning of February, which is commonly known for a lot of people as St. Bridget's Day. And that's a time when you're kind of bringing the light back in, and so you can connect with the fairy world then too. So I don't really think it's like, okay, we just pack up our case and go down to maybe they go to the Bermuda Triangle. Maybe that's where they go in the winter.
Well,
let's go with that.
I mean, I look at this, and I've seen fairies.
I know you have.
Okay, and my daughter has seen fairies, and, I love telling this story because, a number of times when we first moved up here, she would just disappear in our backyard, and she would open up and walk into the green belt, and she was, she's not so much there because she's 18 and going on 35 right now, and trying to figure out what she wants in her life. But back when she was younger, she was very highly into meditation. And she would walk into the green belt behind our house, go sit in the long grass for a little bit, and just meditate. And she used to tell us the stories about how the fairies would come in and land on her and meditate with her.
Interesting.
And it got to the point where she was getting sluggish in the middle of the night because every time she went to fall asleep, the fairies would be in her room flying around, and because they were all different colors of purple, pink, orange, red, blue, green, yellow, white, because they were all different colors, when she had her eyes closed, the colors would be so bright it would shine right through her eyelids, right? And
so she couldn't sleep.
And she, here the poor girl is like 13, 14 years old trying to fall asleep, and she can't because of the fairies.
Amazing.
Yeah, because they were just absolutely loving.
Well, they do respond, and that's the thing, is that she was actually going out and like going into kind of a meditative, visionary trance state, and they responded to that, and they obviously trusted her. And it's interesting. I mean, my just going back to my mom frequently goes into trance. Sometimes not on purpose. But she does go into trance, and she does specifically go into trance to commune with the fairies and, ask them to just like look out for her and, help her garden grow and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I do think that some people are more connected or more open to that. And I think that there's kind of a natural trust that happens between the other realm and our realm. And I actually think that about ghosts too. Like, I don't think ghosts just show themselves when you expect them to, or when you yell at them a lot, right? Like they reveal themselves to the people that they, I don't know how much it has to do with the people or the moment, but I do think that there's a sort of understanding and a certain reverence for a person who actually acknowledges them. I mean, it's like standing in a room and someone sees you.
Varla Ventura, Our Cryptid World, varlaventura.net is her website. You can get her books there or in any major bookstore. We love it when Varla's here. It's always so much fun. We continue on with your questions. Is there a giant dome in the underworld? We'll find out next. All right, buddy.
The Gnome Dome.
The Gnome Dome. This one's from Evil Jim Jim. The Evil Double Jim.
Oh, yeah, Double Jim. Oh, that's Double Jim.
The Evil Double Jim.
Oh. Jim Jim. Who's Jim Jim?
I don't know. He's the Evil Jim Jim.
Jimmy Jim. James. You see my mug? I'm going to get you one of these.
Is that a double V?
Yes, it is.
Where did you get such a mug?
Well, my nephew, my sister's oldest son, designed this logo, and then I put it on a mug myself on my shop. If you, not obviously blasting on air, but if you want to message me your mailing address, I will send you a mug.
Well, then I will send you a shirt.
I have a Spaced Out Radio tank.
I'll send you a mug then.
Okay.
We'll trade mugs. Hey, Spudgy, what's going on, man?
Mug swap.
Big question in the chat room from Vanner Smith. Dave, are you more smitten with Varla or Chad Smith?
Ooh.
I am as much.
Hey, I don't want to compete. I'm not here to compete with Chad.
I have a heart as big as Fap's head for Varla. But I am a Chad Smithaholic.
I think we're all Chad Smithaholics.
We are all Chad Smithaholics.
It's just it's the first step.
You got to be able to admit it. It's the first step to healing. Project Blue Book, good to see you, buddy. And let's see here. Let's see. John, Dave, if you had a camera in your daughter's room, would the fairy still show up? Probably not, because she doesn't live here. But I do have a video of her capturing a fairy behind her. And Larry, yes, now that we got the new store, I'm going to do that for you, bud. I just got to talk to Ben from UFO Garage and get my private password into the store. Then you get your shirt, man. Super YJ, what's happening? And Larry, with the new shirts, you got to tell me which one you want and what size. Well, if you're going to do that, I'm going to do that.
There's some advantages to electronic radio.
Yep. Truth Entertainment, how are you? Welcome to our channel. And, there she is, everyone. The gorgeous Simply Coco. Simply Coco, could you please let us know what your drink of choice for tonight's show is? We'd appreciate that. Sensational Sherry, how are you? Terry Brown, good to see you. Oh, YJ, you got blue dolphins? Where in the hell did you find blue dolphins?
I'm hopped up on gummy worms and blue dolphins.
Blue dolphins are the best. That is my favorite candy ever, and I cannot find them up here.
Ooh, all right. Well, everyone...
They're like a gelatin.
Keep your eye out.
They're like a gelatin?
Yes. Don't they have kind of like marshmallow gummy on top, and then the bottom is like... Oh, they're not like the frogs?
No.
I like those frogs.
Dirt Road, thank you so much for that awesome super chat. Really do appreciate that. Thank you so much. Now, because I put that up, I lost the question.
It was, is there a dome in the underworld?
Yeah, I know, but I want to highlight it here so that way I don't.
Okay.
There it is.
I got a pretty short answer for it.
Mm-hmm. All right, there we
Want
go.
some?
There's Fapster.
Bloop.
Take my name out of your goddamn moof. Is that a Canadian thing? Moof?
Moof? Aren't you Canadian?
Fapster, I shall not. I shall not. G West, thank you so much for that awesome super chat, man. Really appreciate that.
Sangria with a splash of blueberry wine, she said.
Sangria with a
splash. Coco said.
Where'd she say that? There it is.
Up.
That actually sounds wonderful.
Actually, it's incredibly refreshing.
That sounds just great. Ed Parnell, good to see you.
Oh, I see what you're talking about.
All right, big thank you to G West, Dirt Road, Sally, Ibarata, and Andrew for the amazing super chats. It's a great way to support what we do on this show. Hi, Sinister Vax. Welcome back. Oh, hey, Clam. And here comes the second half hour of the show right now. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for tuning us in. Really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with Varla Ventura and our Cryptid World. Varla comes in once a month to discuss everything weird, strange, and impractical, and that's why we love her. You can find any of her books at any major bookstore across North America. Varla, welcome back.
I like that. I wouldn't mind being known as the queen of impracticality.
That's a good shirt.
That's a crown I'd wear with pleasure.
That's a good shirt. You would totally wear that. All right. Last half hour, we talked some gnomes. And then this question from the evil Jim, the evil double Jim. Is there a giant dome in the underworld?
Okay, so I don't think so. Do you mean like a giant place where everyone's just like hanging out underneath it, or like an actual Superdome type thing? I don't think so, but I will tell you something kind of interesting about the underworld, or about underworld mythology that sort of science has recently revealed. I was actually reading an article earlier this week about how there's basically like this map of the underworld now that like geologists have been like sort of mapping underground for quite some time now. And there's kind of this map where there are basically like reverse and underground mountains and stuff like that, like all kind of beneath the Earth's surface, just from like whatever plates, the tectonic plates shifting and all that jazz. And it really kind of, it's very Tolkien. Like when you read this article, you just like look up like map of the underworld science or something, and you'll find probably the article I was looking at, which, you know, they're kind of fluorescent colored maps or whatever, but it just is you start thinking about like I immediately went to Lord of the Rings with it, and was just like, oh, here's a map. Oh, look, here's this mountain. And so I don't know about a dome. I've never heard anything about a specific dome or any theories about that. But, you know, as I've said, I know very little. I believe I said that.
Do you believe?
And I'm impractical.
Do you believe, though, that there is an underworld where all these casts of creatures are hanging out?
Yeah, but I also don't necessarily think it's like a reverse world of ours. I think it's something that kind of coexists with us. Because one thing that I think, and I say this as a person who can be guilty of this, it's very hard to not think in linear time. We are trained to think in linear time, but there are times in your life when linear time is completely thrown out. One of those times is birth. Like linear time has nothing to do with the process of birth. Death is another time when linear time is sort of irrelevant. So when you think, if you can wrap your mind around the idea of time being more like roundy and overlapping, so that it's not going from 12 a.m. to 12 p.m., but that there's actually sort of like this kind of constant evolution of time, then you can start to understand the idea of there being, now New Agers want to call it parallel dimensions, but old timers, we like to just call it the other world. And it's unseen, but it's still kind of happening at the same time or within the same kind of general realm. But when I say time, we're not talking about the 24-hour clock and the 365-day calendar, right? But we are kind of talking about cycles of the moon and nature and things like that. So I don't know if I answered that, but
it works for me.
Feels good to me.
All right. To Hack Service is asking, could you tell us about some close experience with astral travel? It's so interesting. Have you ever astral traveled?
Yes, I have, actually. I have astral traveled. I actually astral traveled before I realized I was astral traveling. And then when I studied a bit about astral traveling, I was like, oh man, I better like reel it in here. But astral travel, yeah, I mean, you know, I have been in guided meditations where someone has tried to connect me to the astral plane and explain to me what the astral plane is. And I didn't get much out of that at all. But for many of us, we can access the astral plane, or whatever concept of the astral plane you know to be true. You can access that when you're dreaming. That's a time when you can actually kind of have an out-of-body experience and leave your body. And I mean, when I was a teenager, I used to experiment with some of my, you know, witchy, vampire-y friends. We used to say, all right, like, let's have some, we're going to have like a collective dream, and we're going to like meet on the astral plane. But basically the idea of the astral plane is just this area of higher consciousness that you can willingly go to, and that you can connect with higher beings or get wisdom or connect with other astral travelers. And it's a pretty simple concept that has been made into some huge deal. But honestly, everyone in this chat has the ability to access the astral plane, and probably has without knowing it. I have been told, like, be careful, you can bring things back from the astral plane. And then somebody told me I brought back like a big black succubus from the astral plane. And I was like, yeah, it's my pet. I meant to do that. Yeah, I think like, I think the astral plane and the idea of lucid dreaming, those are things that anyone can access, because it's really just a matter of like practice and belief and trial and error. You know, you won't get there every time. So.
All right. G. West says, I am new to this sort of topic, but I would love to get into it. Do you have a book that is good for beginners?
Why, yes, I do.
Of course she does.
Let's see. I don't actually have it right next to me. I think if you're interested in like fairies and things like that, the best, I do have this book next to me. My book, Fairies, Pookas, and Changelings, is a really good book to check out. It's full of actually a combination of fairy tales and folklore and speculation and documentation about different beasts and things like that. And then as far as the paranormal goes, that's my Paranormal Parlor. That's a book that I wrote kind of more about supernatural experiences that I've had and that people that I know have had, and kind of the discussion of the spiritualist movement and what it means to make contact with the other side. So those are my books. And then, you know, there's a ton of great books out there, depending on like what you're interested in. If you're interested in kind of more the magic and ritual end of things, or if you're just kind of looking to read more. For example, the best book in the world about fairies is William Butler Yeats's Fairies and what is it called? It's right over there. Fairies and Folk and Irish Culture, or something like that. It was called something else when it was published, and then that wasn't a very pleasant name, so they they republished it. But his work on fairies is like, it's unparalleled, and he's a dude. So
right on. Spudger is asking, if there is an underworld, do you believe, Varla, cryptids could live there?
Oh man, this is a good question, because that is what I think. I think that most cryptids are kind of part of. I gotta do this like. Okay, it was just too much whiteness coming off the screen there for me. I think that yes, absolutely. There's a lot of lore about creatures that are vampire or werewolf or like kind of dogman-ish that live in this underworld. And in fact, again, in Celtic mythology and on Halloween, opening up these gates and letting all manner of beasties and things come through, that is what that's kind of what that means, to have that sort of broken veil where these kind of cryptid creatures can go through. I'm not sure about some of the creatures. Some of the creatures, such as Bigfoot, I think they may well have the ability to just cloak themselves really, really well in the forest and only make themselves known to certain people who've actually had the sightings. But definitely. There's just like this whole other kind of realm where all the cool kids live, all the strange creatures and such. But it's not like, again, it's not necessarily like an underworld, although you can access it through caves and things like that. But it's not necessarily like a flip side. It's almost it's just as tangible to them as our world is to us. And our world perhaps is less tangible to them.
Is it magical?
What's that?
Is it magical down there?
Oh, this is the most magical. It's the most magical realm in all the lands. Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a real strong connection. I think I've made this argument before, that I do think that most cryptids are actually part of the fairy kingdom. And I think that when we think of fairies, we think of small magical things with wings. But if you've looked into, what is really going on in the fairy kingdom, it's this massive, writhing kingdom full of all manner of things, little things that are a foot high and can help your garden grow, sure, but also tall, twisty things that can reach into your room at night. Trolls, things that live in the water, things that live in the swamps. I mean, there's just a wide array, not unlike the plant kingdom. And so I do think that a lot of what we like to call cryptids today fit into this umbrella. In my mind, it's a magical creature umbrella, that they live in an alternate kind of place that we just can't always see.
When I hear you say that, I don't know why, but I get the big thinking of the Disney movie Monsters, Inc., where they live in their own world behind the closet, and they can connect and disconnect to this world in no time flat. That's to me exactly what you're explaining.
Well, there's countless tales like that. I mean, Narnia, right? There's tons of stories in Celtic mythology about going into a cave or going into a rock. All around the world, you'll find these kind of instances. When you're speaking of mermaids, there's people who will dive down into a specific cave, and that kind of, there's always in all of these tales, be they modern or these kind of older stories, there's always a certain process that it takes to get to this other world. Sometimes it's accidental, right? Like for kids, a lot it's accidental. They just sort of like go through the looking glass. And one of the problems I think we run into is, again, we're trying to explain something non-human in human terms. And so it'll always slip through our fingers a little bit, right? And so we have all of these representations in art and literature and film, but it's always going to slip through our fingers a little bit because it's kind of what they're all about. You know, maybe that's the whole point, is that there's a lesson there about the importance or lack of importance of time, and how we are on this kind of constant schedule of go, go, go. But then if you accidentally like take a left where you were supposed to take a right, you end up in this fairy kingdom. You know, years could go by and you think it's just been 24 hours, or it'll feel like years and you've only been gone a day. So there's and I think we've all had those time slips, right? Those moments in time where either things have seemed to stand still, or things seemed a little surreal, or we've lost that part of time, or we've seen something that, I don't know, like the times that I've seen ghosts, it's like it when you remember it, it feels like it took like, you know, half the night was spent, but it was really probably like 10 seconds tops that you were like, whoa, there's this freaking shimmering thing at the foot of my bed. But when you're thinking about it, it just overcomes you to the point where your concept of time is really thrown off with that. And so when we have these little glimpses into that other world, it really, I don't know. I mean, personally, for me, it really messes with my sense of time.
Why are children so susceptible to this kind of world?
I just think they're closer to it. I think they're less absorbed in time, for one thing, right? Like, I don't know about you, but my son does not really, like, I mean, yes, he can tell the time, but he doesn't have the concept of time as in, like, I'm going to be late, or I have to, you know. He's just so in the moment. And I think that there's a certain, it's something that's very difficult as we get older to really actually be in the moment. We talk about that all the time, right? We're like, seize the day. But then like we also think, oh yes, but you know, I've got to go home and, you know, let the dogs out. So we're always thinking ahead, or we're thinking, probably more often we're thinking in the past. We're constantly thinking about our past mistakes or our past triumphs, and we're not really actually present. Whereas children, because they don't really know what to expect, right? So they're just much more present. So I think that's part of it. And then also children are just more open-minded. They don't know all the things yet, and so they're more intelligent than us in that way, right? Because they are more open-minded. They are, you know, I mean, how many times have you had a conversation with your child about something that in your mind you're thinking like, there's no way we could do that. But in their minds, it seems incredibly plausible, because it's just as plausible that, you know, you can, whatever, eat cake for dinner as it is that you could, you know, I don't know, end up in another realm. And so I think that and I also think that when it comes to like the paranormal and like ghost sightings and things like that, I think that children are definitely more susceptible to those things because they don't know to be afraid, and we actually teach them to be afraid. They don't necessarily, now there's scary stuff out there, right? But it's our reaction to that, children read our cues. So I think that there's a lot of kind of inherent understanding of the other world that comes with children that we've removed ourselves from.
Very true. And you know, I look at my son, the clock means nothing.
Yeah.
The clock means nothing. If it wasn't for mom and dad, he would still be up right now.
Yeah. Absolutely. Oh, 100%. And speaking of time, any parent who is ever trying to get their child ready in the morning or to bed at night, it's like, why does morning time go so fast and suddenly you have no time and you're late? And then why is nighttime so long and you're trying so hard to get them to go to sleep?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's the relationship with time is very different for us. And of course, that's because we are on this clock. We're on this obligatory clock of 9 to 5 work or whatever hours we work, midnight to midnight or 7 to 7 or whatever it is, So
I had a good conversation with my 22-year-old daughter the other day, and we were texting each other, and she's like, Dad, I never knew that adulting sucked so much.
Mm-hmm.
And
I come home?
And I'm like, yeah, unfortunately, I told you not to grow up, but you didn't listen.
You didn't listen. You know what? At least she's like conscious enough to say that. I don't feel like I was conscious enough to say that until I was in my 30s or something. By then it was just too late.
Yeah. You know what, though? What amazes me is how fast time goes the older you get. Like when I was a kid, I remember I thought staying up until 11 o'clock was so late. I was such a rebel staying up until 11 o'clock. And then in summertime, you do it 2 nights in a row and then 3 nights in a row. And then that 4th night, your parents are like, 9:30, go to bed. And you're like, what? I was just up till 11 last night. But now I can't believe, ever since I became a parent, I cannot believe how fast time goes. Like, I don't see my son as 8 years old. I definitely do not see my daughter as 22 years old.
Yeah. Really, yes. Yes, it's amazing. It's absolutely like, I do think that that's a real, there's an obvious marker, right? Like, there's a physical marker of aging, but you don't notice it when you're a kid because you're in the middle of that. You're in the middle of it. When I think back of like summers, it felt to me like summers were so long and so stretched out and, so glorious. And now it's just like, what, summer's over already? Like, no, I need like 1 more month. Not that I don't work in the summer, I'm not on the school schedule, but my son is. And it just, those days are,
oh yeah.
We had to sleep train him to go back to school. He's 10.
Yeah, same here.
I was like, buddy, we got to sleep train.
All right, one quick question. We got 2 minutes before we have to go to break here. Spooky is asking, Varla, what are some of your favorite movies?
Oh, God. Okay, so off the top of my head, so I like really like kind of campy, semi-gothy movies from the 80s. So those are some of my favorite movies. So I love Clue, and I love the Addams Family movies, and Beetlejuice, and all those kind of Tim Burton movies. So those are definitely like some of my favorites. Trying to think if there's anything like really profound that I can contribute other than, Nosferatu. That's not that profound, but it's like one of the first vampire movies ever made, and it's pretty freaky. I loved The Orphanage. If you haven't seen that, that's a really creepy movie. And Dave, have you seen that movie?
No.
It's actually a Spanish movie. It's really creepy. And if you're a parent, I'm just going to tell you right now, like, it's deeply disturbing in a way that I don't want to reveal because it's so dang good. I have this great friend. I should really get like a fabulous movie list from him. I have this great friend who runs a couple movie theaters in San Francisco. And throughout the pandemic, he and I have gotten together and we've done like watch parties of like really various horror movies and stuff. And so one of them was, what was it called? I don't even remember, but it was about like a Zoom seance that these people did. And it was all like done on the screen, like everybody's little squares of everybody doing the seance in their own thing. And then of course they all get possessed and it was made during the pandemic. So that was a pretty great movie. But I also like anything Harvey, anything like black and white. Mr. Peabody and the Mermaid, great movie. I love 12 Angry Men. If you've never seen that, that's not particularly paranormal. It's just well acted. And anything with Greta Garbo. She's such a grump.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. Varla, I'm going to get you to hold on right there as we are going to go to break here at the top of the hour. 1 hour down, 2 hours to go on Spaced Out Radio tonight. And, of course, we're going to continue to take audience questions. For Varla Ventura, our cryptid world, Varla joins us once a month here on The Big Show to talk all things strange and weird. When we come down, how about a little witchcraft? See where it goes. VarlaVentura.net is our website. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. All right, we're clear.
Okay.
I just want to give a shout out to all of our Australian listeners. I hope I hope you guys are safe right now because there's like riots going on down there. I hope you are all safe and keeping with it. Sometimes we got to fight the power, and you know what? Keep it up. Keep it up. I hope all of our listeners down there are safe. So please check in with us. We'd appreciate that. Neoma Finn, welcome to our channel. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Thank you, Clam, for setting the password for tonight. Yeah, absolutely. I'm standing with the Australian citizens tonight. With the citizens. We're having that same crap happen here, and people are falling for it. I don't usually like to get political, but I'm pissed off.
Well, you're on break. You're technically on break, right?
Yeah, I know, but it's still going to be on YouTube, right?
The YouTube. They don't censor nothing.
So I got to be careful. Kitties, puppies, kitties, puppies, kitties, puppies.
Can you get kicked off YouTube? Yeah, just put a cute cat picture up. We'll be fine. Dirty glasses.
You want me to clean them? Hold on. You want to put your glasses up?
Yeah, could you clean them for me?
Yeah, I totally can right there.
Dave, do you want some of my vitamin B blood?
No.
You sure? It's really good.
Would you like
Tastes
some?
Like cherries.
Would you like some?
Try it.
No.
I just dripped it on my keyboard.
Would you like some of my Mighty Moose beard oil?
Yes.
Would you?
I'll put it in my hair. Mm-hmm. Okay, give me some. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, look, see? It's good in hair. You put it in your hair, don't you?
I do put
it in. I bet it smells so good. Does it smell like a forest?
It does. Would you like me to use Winter Blend or True North?
True North, for sure.
True North. So, if you really want to do something fun in life,
I do.
Okay, what you got to do is you got to try and piss off a Dutchman.
Just me.
Piss off a Dutchman. Okay, so Gary...
I've done that.
Gary, who owns Mighty Moose Beard Oil, one of our sponsors...
I've definitely done that.
He's a Dutchman. And you know what the one thing that Dutch people hate? They hate giving...
Yes, I do.
They hate giving a deal on anything. Each Dutchman has their first dollar they've ever made, and it hangs around them on their body like a necktie. Okay, so... The way we can get back at them is when you order your Mighty Moose beard oil, you use promo code SOR 2019. Gary the Dutchman is absolutely going to hate this, but he's going to comply because we have a major written contract, okay, that he can't break. So you just put it in your hand like so. Drop that back in there. Rub it into your hands and then just massage it in. That's it. Massage it in. Now, ladies, see how my hands are all greasy? You can just massage it into your hand.
Yes, we do.
It's all natural. There is no chemicals whatsoever. All right? And it feels great. It helps prevent split ends. And that's what I do. Little Mighty Moose beard oil. Works wonders.
What does it smell like, Dave?
This smells like the forest.
What does the other one smell like?
Winter.
The forest in winter?
Winter.
Nice.
So go to MightyMooseBeard.com. Use promo code SOR2019. You're going to piss Gary the Dutchman off, but nonetheless, he's going to be sending you an order of Mighty Moose Beard Oil. B. Hoff, how are you? Bombshell Bomber, what is happening? The gorgeous Jennifer Hawkins, we will get to your question. And thank you, Chad Smith. The Chad Smith, everyone. The Chad Smith.
The one and only.
Yes. The one.
Don't believe the imposters out there.
Yeah, MightyMooseBeard.com. Check it on out. I smell great now. I do.
Yeah, you do.
I totally want to hit on myself now.
You should. I have a candle burning that I think smells like you. That's my guess.
Yeah, I smell good.
I smell like cookies. Not really. I smell like what's in this cup.
I want a Varla Ventura cup. I totally want a Varla Ventura
like what's in the Varla Ventura mug. Yeah, I got trucker hats too. If you'd rather have a trucker hat, I think the mug's real cool.
I will take both.
Okay,
and then I'll send you both.
What color do you want? Black, blue,
whatever,
orange,
whatever.
You want black?
All right.
Yeah.
All right. I want to say a big thank you to Spooky, Michelle, G. West, Dirt Road, Sally, Ibarata, and Andrew for the awesome super chats tonight. Really appreciate your love and support of Spaced Out Radio. Thank you. Big thank you to all the veterans out there who have tuned us on in and are checking us out. You always have a safe place here, vets, in Spaced Out Radio's chat room. And, of course, to all our regulars who are there, even Fapster, who we know and love, and we want to give a big hug to. Here we go with hour 2.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are in this beautiful planet we call Earth. Want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Balbutiant. Balbutiant is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with Varla Ventura's Our Cryptid World. Varla comes in once a month to hang out and talk all things strange, dark, and macabre. It's the only time I get to use the word macabre on this show is when Varla is here. VarlaVentura.net. We're going to start off with a question from the Evil Double Jim. Witchcraft. Can they enslave your ghost if they steal your bones?
Well, it doesn't quite work like that. Interestingly, Dave, as I mentioned to you off air earlier, I have been working with someone on a book about, specifically about necromancy. It's not my book. I haven't written it. I've just been working in an editorial capacity. And one of the things that I really like about this particular book is that he really kind of clarifies a lot of what it means to be a witch that works with the dead and kind of the history of witchcraft and necromancy. And I think that we have ideas from movies and things like that about like just sort of summoning corpses and having them follow us around and do our bidding, which as fabulous as that sounds, it doesn't quite work that way. But usually when you work with like the bones of someone, or you have, for example, as he talks about in this book, which is, by the way, called The Witch's Book of the Dead, as he talks about in this book, the skulls are used as a means of communication with the dead. And I won't try and sum up this incredible work in, a paragraph, but there's a lot of steps that you can take in order to be an effective and responsible necromancer. So, having said that, some people do think that the bones themselves of a person will kind of hold them from the afterlife. But I think it really is much more personal than that. Can it get more personal than someone stealing your bones? Not really. But what I mean is, if you are the type of person who is really tied to a place and would be really, really offended if someone took your bones and, wrapped them up in a little bundle and hid them under their stairs. Not saying I know anyone who's done that, but then yeah, maybe your ghost would be kind of like coming back to that place because you want to resolve something. But by and large, that's not quite how it seems to work. So I think there's a lot of legends about things like that. But mostly, ghosts have a bit more power than we think they do, or people in the afterlife or the dead or whatever. They have more power than we give them credit for. So it would take a lot for someone to actually, like a human, to hold you here as a ghost. And I think it would take a lot more than your bones.
All right, let's move on to another question from Jennifer. Will you please answer, Varla, about hagstones? I've heard they are good luck, but others say they are a curse.
Well, I tend to think anything that is associated with witches or hags is a blessing, and that they're usually associated with curses because people are afraid of witches, basically. But I don't really, are you talking about a particular kind of magical stone that is called a hagstone?
That's what she's asking.
Yeah. So I personally think that they're good luck. I've never found, the only stone I've ever found to have any kind of negative repercussions for me is a tiger's eye. And other than that, all stones that I have, they just all serve different purposes. And just remember, I think the term hag, we think of something ugly because it was a way to sort of dismiss older women in society. That was the whole purpose of the icon of this craggy old woman, that she wasn't of any value, that she had all of these smelly herbs and, strange ways, and she didn't fit in society. And that is why the term hag is associated with something kind of negative. But in fact, we know that women of a certain age develop an immense amount of power and wisdom. And they also frequently would outlive their husbands and would inherit their property. And so when we think of witches and hags, and we think of any time you ever come across anything that says it's bad luck because a witch touched it, it's there. Witches who curse do it very deliberately and very targeted. And for something to be that generalized as bad luck is just, I think, impossible. I really do.
All right.
So,
Tony,
good luck.
Tony is asking, what's Varla's favorite cryptid?
My favorite cryptid. So I guess if I'm going more on the cryptid side of things and less on the very strange creature side of things, other than everyone's obvious affection for Bigfoot, I'm pretty into the chupacabra. I think I really like the stories of the chupacabra. It reminds me of a lot of different stories that I've read cross-culturally about dogs and shapeshifters, and so I think that's among my favorite.
All right, back to Jennifer, who is asking, Varla, how do you properly close a fetch? Are they safe to make and work with?
I don't know what that is.
What is a fetch? I don't know either.
Yeah.
What is a fetch?
Are you talking about a portal to try and connect to the dead or something like that? I'm not really sure what a fetch is. If you want to go in the chat and clarify that, then maybe we can answer your question.
We'll get.
I've never heard that. Yeah,
we'll get to that.
All right.
Yeah. Let's see. What else do we have here? We're just waiting on that. We are just waiting on that.
Waiting on fetch clarification.
Waiting on what a fetch is. I don't know. Usually I could quickly Google something.
I know what happens when I say fetch.
My goodness. My goodness. All right. As we talk about magic and good luck, bad
Fetching.
luck. As we talk about magic, good luck, bad luck, and everything kind of in between. Now we got the answer. A fetch that you make from stuff you find and bury and feed and give a purpose or a work to do, and you maintain it.
Oh, okay. So let me see
and
that.
it works your bidding.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's an old world term. So I don't really do a lot of stuff like that. Like my practices don't generally involve really anyone or anything else. So I don't really know. I mean, the things that I have done and buried in the ground, I shall not say on air what those are, lest I break my oath. But I don't really know. I mean, I think are you talking about like how to properly dispose of it when you're done? Because if that's the question, then I would think the sea is probably your best bet. Like never find it again.
All right, we'll leave it right there.
Yeah.
We'll leave it right there. Let's move on to another question from our audience here. YJ is asking, is there any witchcraft-related literature with reference to aliens or UFOs?
So I'm not a huge expert on this subject. I've read speculation here and there. There's definitely some overlap with fairy folklore and aliens and poltergeists and things like that, especially when we're talking about like the absence of time. That's another experience that people might relate to as far as like abductions or just sort of like having a encounter that leaves you confused and unsure of what time it is anymore, or where you are. So there's some, I personally have drawn some parallels. As far as witchcraft, I mean, I'm sure there are scholars much more immersed than I that have actually, you know, done their witchy digging on this. One thing that has come up, and I've had this discussion with a couple people, and I think Dave, you and I kind of touched on this too. Are the things that we see and we identify today as cryptids and UFOs and aliens, are they actually the same thing that people were seeing, you know, a few hundred years ago, or even in ancient Egypt? They just had different names and ways of describing them. And we and scholars have given these things names over time. But if you drill down to kind of their basic attributes, could they just be an old way of describing something we today call, a spaceship or a UFO? So I mean, I don't know the answer to that, but I think it's a pretty fascinating way of looking at metaphysical literature over the years. And considering that an experience or what someone might have called a ghost or a saint could easily have been a haunting. What someone might have called, a visitation from the angelic being could easily be what we might call a UFO encounter today. So I think that there's some lexicons, that if you really kind of looked at the language and or maybe better yet, ignored the language and just listened to what they were describing, it would probably remind you of, maybe an experience you've had.
All right, let's move on to Another question here from our audience. Tony is wondering, Varla, have you ever personally had a cryptid experience?
Well, I've had a few. So I've had numerous paranormal experiences. I've seen, heard, and felt a lot of ghosts. I have had a couple of encounters that involved the fairy kingdom that I would probably classify in the cryptid. Personally, I would consider that as like a cryptid experience. I've never had a Bigfoot experience, even though I did grow up in a part of my childhood, we lived in a very rural place. And I have a cousin, and he and his son both have had, they live in this rural part of Northern California, and they have told me a lot of stories. They're, those early morning fishermen that have had a lot of different Bigfoot experiences. So, but as far as cryptids go, I don't, other than like a couple things that I would personally put in the fairy realm, I don't think I've had a lot of cryptid encounters. I've definitely wondered if things that I saw alongside the road could have been that after the fact, but not so. I mean, I've had a few unexplained things that I could probably dig around and call a cryptid experience, like strange noises and things like that. But by and large, most of my personal supernatural experiences have been like ghosts and stuff. So boring, right?
Okay, but you are a prime example of a lot of people who have not had an experience, but you are very passionate and knowledgeable about these topics. Why, if you're not an experiencer, have you grasped on to the belief of a lot of these creatures?
Well, because I'm an experiencer of other things that I, can't explain. And I think that the fact that I've had a lot of paranormal experiences, which is a huge umbrella term, actually really gives that makes me particularly interested. And I've also met a lot of people that, for example, people who self-identify as vampires, who identify as witches, who identify as members of the fringe society. And I think, if I think that they are real, then what's to say that these sort of mythological versions of them aren't real? I have always been fascinated with folklore and mythology, and I do think there's a certain level of like a psychoanalysis that I enjoy when thinking about when, for example, I read a story and I think, okay, what era was this written in? Who wrote this? Who were they? And I love finding that out. Who are these people who are turning up these, turn of the century cryptid stories? What were they doing? What were they drinking? What were they smoking? Like I find that really interesting, but I also think that can help us understand it more, because if you see things through that lens and you understand that, they viewed everything as the devil because they believed in the devil, and therefore they believed in Christ because they were men of the cloth who happened to be educated and were walking around recording all of these things. But like werewolves, there's super compelling evidence for the existence of werewolves. I know you don't necessarily agree with that, Dave, but I think there's a lot of evidence for it.
All right. I'm going to take your word for it. I really am.
It's fine. That's fine.
G West is asking, out of all the cryptids, monsters, witches, seahags, mermaids, which one is the most evil?
Mermaids. For sure. Yeah. Mermaids are pretty dark, you guys. Do not mess with the sea. It's dark. There's a lot of darkness there, and we like to think of lovely little, percussion playing crabs and stuff and songs, but the representation of mermaids throughout the world and in world mythology is actually very dark and very dangerous. So I don't know if evil is really the right word, but we'll go with it for tonight. I'm feeling they're very evil.
All right.
I mean, there's some that are helpful, but of all of those, yeah, we'll go with mermaids.
All right. Zero Cool, welcome to our chat room for the first time, is asking, were your ghost experiences, Varla, generally bad or good?
All good. Every one of them good. I've never had a negative ghost experience. Never. I've had some stuff that has freaked me out in the moment, and I've had some stuff that has freaked me out after the fact. But I enjoyed every minute of it. I really haven't had too many negative experiences. I have been haunted, but not necessarily. Now that's just me. I have a really good friend who is experiencing some pretty serious haunting at the house she lives in, and it's mostly okay, but some of it's pretty scary. So I'm not here to say I think all ghosts are lovely. I just happen to have had, just mine have all just been sort of like wake up calls. I think I always think of that way. If I have any kind of like really supernatural experience, to me, that's a wake up call. And I think that's also part of what happens with the fairy kingdom and fairy encounters and paranormal encounters in general. It's a wake up call. It's like, what are you doing right now? What are you doing in your life? Are you doing the right thing, and that's why you were gifted with this experience? Or do you need this reassurance that the other world is there? Or are you just being a complete idiot? And do you really just need that thwack on the forehead that icy finger just gave you? This personal experience.
We got 3 minutes to go before we got to go to break at the bottom of the hour. Nicola is asking, what do you think shadow people are, and where do they come from?
Yeah, shadow people are definitely, I hear a lot of pretty frightening stories about shadow people. I think that they are definitely in the sort of ghost afterlife realm. I think that they're the dead that are lurking around to kind of get messages to us. That's my personal belief. I think some people think they're another kind of entity. I don't really know, right? Like, we're all just totally guessing when it comes to this stuff, because it's really all like the paranormal and the unknown, and we're just kind of basing it on our experiences. But I do think that they are the dead. I don't think they're necessarily the dead, like someone that is like hanging around, but I think that they may be the dead that have something kind of unrequited. I don't think all ghosts are like Marley dragging the chains around and like, oh, I had regrets in life. I think that some ghosts have other reasons that they're appearing, or trying to get messages through. But with shadow people in particular, I think that they're heavy and they're more visible than some other ghostly experiences. They're frequently described as blackness versus the shimmering light that some of us have seen with ghosts. And so to me, I feel like there's some kind of messenger. So that kind of goes right along with the wake-up call. I do think that there's some kind of messenger, and I've always had the impression that they're checking on whoever they're looking at. And it scares us as mortals, but it's not necessarily inherently evil. It's just very scary because it's so solid, even though it's invisible at the same time, right? It's just this like really kind of, it is a shadow, and that's shadow people is a really good way to describe it. So I've always kind of thought they were like checking on people for whatever reasons.
I don't like shadow people.
Maybe they have a big shadowy list.
Do not like shadow
I know.
people.
Scary, right?
I have literally been within 30 feet of one. I'm not talking like ghostly shadows. I'm saying an actual shadow person. And it was so eerie. And it turned, it looked at me, then it did a 180 and ran like lightning speed right into a cement wall and disappeared.
So it's like you caught it. I do see. That's what I mean. I feel like they're checking. They're like secret agents from the afterlife or something, right?
It was standing at my door. I was living in a basement suite, and after my ex-wife and I split up. And I came around the corner wide because my entry to the door was behind the house. Okay, I will finish this story when we come back.
Great.
On my
Can't
shadow
wait.
person experience. Varla Ventura is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. VarlaVentura.net. You can find all of our books at any major bookstore across North America. Yes, bookstores still exist, people. We should use them more often. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. All right, we're clear. I want to say something right off the bat here. Varla, I'm going to move you because I want this to be fully on me here for a second. All right. When I made the comment last break about Australia and making sure our listeners over there were okay and to keep up, fight for what you believe in, all right, one of our listeners decided to say, automatically accuse me of being an anti-vaxxer and all that kind of crap. I have never promoted anything about anti-vax or anything on this show. Ever. Ever. I am pro-choice, that you get to do what you want. If you believe in the vaccination, take it. If you don't believe in it, don't take it. But to make accusations and then run out of my room without having an explanation, that's not fair. It's not fair to make accusations and then dip and run. That pisses me off. That's not fair. Okay? We keep this room open to everybody. I don't care about if you're a vaxxer or an anti-vaxxer. I don't care if you are part of the LGBTQ community or not. I don't care what color your skin is, where you're from, what your religion is, because we all come under the umbrella of enjoying the woo. All right? And this is why I sometimes hate doing this show. Because the minute I open my mouth about anything, somebody's got to slam me down. I am here every night of the week, 5 nights a week. And I keep my mouth shut on everything. Even the last election that happened earlier this week here in Canada, I kept my mouth shut. I wanted to speak because I was angry. All right? Very angry. But I kept my emotions in check. We have to be able to do our homework. We have to be able to do our looking into things. And when asking questions is wrong, or supporting people is wrong, then maybe we're not the show for you. All right? We're too sensitive these days. Way too sensitive. Everybody wants to rip a new one in someone. So if you want to take a shot at me, go ahead. But stand up and allow me the opportunity to speak back. Because I've never said a thing about vax or anti-vax. Ever. And I'm not going to be accused of bullshit like that. All right? Just pisses me off. It ruins a night. Absolutely ruins a night. And I suggest that any of you out there, whether you're for protests or not, go see what the police are doing to people. I watched a video earlier today of a woman protesting with her little boy. All she did was walk down the sidewalk with a protest sign on, and police tried to rip her kid out of her arms. The boy was crying. All right? Use some humanity. We don't live in a good place right now. It's not fun living right now. Hasn't been for a year and a half. We're supposed to take care of the weak, help the weak, those who are destitute, those who need our help. That's what being a good citizen is. And today, if you have a differing opinion, you're accused of being something that you're not. Hey, Duke, how you doing? I apologize, but that one stung. Don't accuse me of bullshit. Okay? Don't put words in my mouth. Okay? And if you can't handle my answer or my reply, because I'm a pretty honest guy, if you can't handle my reply, leave. We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with Varla Ventura. VarlaVentura.net is her website. And you can find any of her books at any major bookstore across North America. And it's Our Cryptid World, where she comes in every now and again, once a month, hangs out, talks about some serious woo, and we love her here. Love her. Varla, welcome back.
Thanks. I just realized we have the same haircut.
We do. We both have Karen hair. Total Karen hair.
Super Karen.
Super Karen.
So Karen.
I wear
no,
a
I
cape.
definitely
I
do
wear a
not
cape.
have Karen hair.
Anyways, I do right now. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, you totally are.
I
Karen.
totally have Karen hair right now. Anyways, I was telling you my story of my experience with a shadow person right before the break.
Yes.
You remember?
Yes.
It was so long ago.
I do.
Okay, so here's the full story. I was trying to give you the Cole's Notes version previous to this. So I was working late nights at the radio station. And this is back when Art Bell was still on the radio. And I was listening to a show that he was doing on shadow people. And this is about 3 weeks before I had my incident. And I was like, this is so weird. Way, way too weird. So this would have been around 2005, 2006. So about 3 weeks after this Art Bell show, here I am coming home. It's in the fall. Okay, we have bears around our area. Every now and again back then. Not like where I live now, where you can see a bear almost every day if you wanted. But I came home, and I lived in a basement suite after my ex-wife and I split up. And so I would have to park on the road, and then I'd have to walk up the driveway, open up the gate to walk around the back of the house to get into my doorway. So here I am. I unlock the gate, and I can immediately see, as I'm heading towards the back of the house, that my sensor light on my door is on. Okay? So I'm thinking, okay, best case scenario, maybe a rat or a raccoon. Okay? Best case scenario.
Yeah.
Okay, worst case scenario.
Slightly large rodent.
Yeah. Worst case scenario, burglar, bear, cougar. Okay. anything, ex-wife, anything that can, anything that can scare me at this point. Former mother-in-law. Anyways, so I kind of take the turn real wide, and there's a cement embankment behind as a cement barrier wall that kind of runs along the back of the house and onto the side. And so I kind of take that turn really wide, and I'm just kind of peering around this corner because I want to make sure that if I got to run for the hills because there's a bear there, that I could get back to my vehicle. Okay, at least I'd be safe in my vehicle. And I'm not the fastest runner at the best of times. Lord knows that, there's a lot of people with walking canes that could outwalk me, So, anyways, I start to walk around the corner, and I see my sensor light on, and I see this shadow person standing at my door, facing my door. And I just stand there stopped. And all of a sudden I'm thinking, holy cow, Art Bell is right. These things exist. And the one thing I remember, it was very cartoonish. It had like a round head. It didn't have a hat. Okay, and then, as a kid where you draw like the neckline and then the square shoulders for, and then the square body and then the square pants, okay, or the rectangular pants, that's what it looked like. It had no hands, there was no face, there was no feet.
Like a paper cutout.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly like a paper cutout. And I'm looking at this thing, it turns its body, looks right at me, and then did a 180-degree turn, and just like boom, like watching an Olympic sprinter run as fast as it can. It ran right through that cement barrier wall and disappeared.
And what was it doing there? Because it was at your door.
Just standing there.
So it must have thought you were home.
I don't know. That's what I assume.
Yeah, that's scary.
Yeah.
There's a good friend of mine who I'd love to bring him on this show with you sometime because he's absolutely fascinating. He's an archaeologist, and he has all kinds of amazing stories, and he's also has a lot of extrasensory perception. And he told me the scariest thing I think I've ever heard, and it was a kind of a similar, like I think it was sort of a shadow person. That might be what we would classify it as now. But it was sort of like a cutout shape, but he described it as like having scribbles in it, and that it actually had this sort of kinetic energy in it, and it would follow him when he was a child and like chase him, like not chase him down the hall, like it wasn't running after him, but it would slowly progress down the hall, and he would run and hide in the closet, and it would come in and it would stand at the closet, and then it would leave as if it was just checking on him. It never harmed him, but it had this kind of shadow, like it had that kind of the feeling to it. I've never encountered anything like that intense before. So
really,
no,
wow.
Everything that I've had has been either someone I recognized, or I wouldn't say something pleasant, but it wasn't. I mean, I like weird stuff, so I'm probably a really bad judge of character when it comes to these things. Could have been a demonic entity, and I was like, yeah, cool, you can lay here.
All right, let's get to Tony's question. Why is it that ghosts and demons always reside in a basement?
I know, right? It's always in like some dark, dank place. Maybe that's why it's closer to the earth. I don't think that's always true. There's lots of ghosts in attics, Tony. Plenty of attic ghosts. Hallway ghosts, bathroom ghosts.
What's the weirdest ghostly encounter you have had?
The weirdest, they've all been a bit weird, right? But nothing quite as exciting as a shadow person at my door that then turned around into a cement wall. I did see an increase in paranormal activity when I lived in this attic apartment in San Francisco when my son was just a baby, and I saw quite an increase in paranormal activity after bringing him home from the hospital. Now, I will say that with full disclosure that I also saw a great lack of sleep after bringing him home. But I did see something kind of like weird and shimmery over his bed or his crib one time. And that only freaked me out in that, like, it didn't feel like something scary. It felt like something was looking at him. But as that protective part of you is just like, what is that? I have been, I've been kind of hit before. Actually, I've been hit a couple times. Like, one time I was hit on my forehead, and that didn't leave a mark or anything, but it left I could feel it all day where I had been like whacked in the forehead. Probably was like my grandma or something, just like, you idiot. Like, what are you doing? Whack. But I have been kind of like, pushed around a little bit. That's happened. Probably the absolute weirdest thing happened when I was a teenager and I was irresponsibly using a Ouija board alone in a basement of a haunted Victorian. That was pretty weird. The board sort of took on a life of its own, and it kind of ended up flying across the room, and a few other. The board said some pretty creepy things. So that's really the weirdest.
Did I ever tell you my lottery story about a Ouija board?
I don't know. I can't remember. Tell it again.
All right. Speaking of Ouija boards, it wasn't a Ouija board. It was a spirit board because
it wasn't copyrighted.
Yeah, exactly. So it was, I believe, summer of 2013. Yeah, summer of 2013, and we used to go over to our friend's house. We called it the farm. This is where I had a lot of strange experiences there. It was like a mini ESETI ranch there, and here I am. We're all sitting around this spirit board. And the spirit board keeps pointing to me. It wants to communicate with me. Literally spells out afterwards, so we find out, says, you're going to win the lottery. And I'm like, okay, I'm not buying this. And I said, how much? And it was an odd number. It was 43 million. And I was like, okay, when? And it said, like, I think it was like 8 or 11 weeks from now. It was like 11 weeks, let's say, because it was a long time waiting. And I was like, okay. So I said, where do I buy my ticket? Same place you always do. So that week of the lottery, like usually in Canada, the lottery always goes up by 5s, usually. Like if it's 5 million one week, it'll jump to 10 or 15 or 20. You know what I'm saying? It never goes to a weird number like 43 or 38 or 27. Never seems to do that. It does happen every now and again, mathematically, but it was just strange. So about a week before, the lottery goes through, there's no winner again, they announce the next week's lottery. Okay, this 11 weeks later, and it's $43 million. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So I went to the store, bought my ticket. I go to work that day. After work, we go back to the farm. We get on I totally forget about the lottery, totally forget about the ticket. And we go back to the farm, and for some reason, we start playing on the spirit board again. And I'm like, okay. And the board comes right to me. Like the planchette comes right to me and spells out, congratulations. And I went, oh my God, the lottery ticket. It was $43 million today. So I run in. They got bad cell reception up there. I run in, I run to my car, run back in the house, and I check my lottery numbers. And I didn't have a single number. Not a one.
Why didn't you ask for the numbers?
I didn't think I had to after it said I was going to win. All it said to me was buy the ticket, so I did, right? So here I am. I am mad now, okay? And the board kept going.
You lied to me.
Exactly. So here I am having this anger, one-sided argument with this board now, and it kept going. Sorry. I never used the board after that. I was so mad. I never used the board after that. It ripped me off $43 million.
But to be fair, you had already forgotten about it before the board reminded you again. So.
Yeah, but the board coming straight to me and spelling out congratulations.
So were there other people touching the board?
Yes.
Touching the planchette?
There were three of us.
That you trust, though. Because
yes.
I think you've told me about a couple of other things that happened at that place that...
The fire.
So you trusted the people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I did trust the people.
Yeah.
But it just, I've never used the Ouija board or a spirit board since. I was so upset by that. 43 million! You know what I'm saying?
So close!
So close. Only 7 numbers away.
Someone won.
Like, you know what? I mean...
Oh, it was another Dave. 2 towns over.
No.
Did anyone win it?
Yeah, it was won in Ontario. You know, because Ontario wins all of the lotteries.
Unfair.
Oh, man. It was mean. It was absolutely mean. And I was baffled. Like, everything the board said up until that point was true. Every point. You know,
and in alternate universe, perhaps you won
that does me no good here. That does me no good here.
No, I know, but you probably wouldn't be doing this radio show if you'd won $43 million, and then we would never have met. So there we go.
Oh, I probably would have done the radio show.
Just only done the radio show.
I would have only done the radio show. I wouldn't be working 16 hours a day, 5 days a week. You know. I definitely wouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, I don't actually currently own a Ouija board. I've gone through a few. I have just this kind of thing with tarot decks and Ouija boards alike, where I don't know. I just have to really. It's not that I have to get like the right vibe from them. Sometimes I can't read them. Right. And I've cycled through a few Ouija boards. I don't have one right now. And I've actually really been craving one. Maybe it's all the alone time during the pandemic. I need someone to talk to. This is how it starts. This is how those horror movies start.
This is how it all begins.
A lonely lady alone in the basement.
Yes. All right. I have a question from Jeff in our Spreaker chat from you.
Okay.
Or for you. He's saying, have you ever heard of Chris Bledsoe's alien sighting in Fayetteville in 2007? I always thought his story resembled a fairy in the woods sighting more than an alien sighting.
Now, I think I have heard that, but because the name, I remember that name really well. But I don't, I'd have to look it up and read the description.
Chris Bledsoe, I'll give you the breakdown.
Yeah, give me the breakdown.
Chris Bledsoe, very religious man, very prominent figure in his church and his community, owned a construction company. And in 2007, he was fishing with some of his crew members and his sons down at the local river. And they had to park probably a quarter to half mile away from the fishing spot. And he went to get something from his truck. And so he's walking along this dirt road path. It turns left, and then there's a hill coming up. And this is where he sees this giant orb floating above his vehicle. And he was like, well, is that a helicopter or what is this all about? He starts to walk up towards it, realizes there's a second orb there, and the next thing he knows, he's coming back.
Oh.
And he was gone for a few hours. And he gets back to the fishing hole, and his buddy or his coworkers were like, "Where were you? Where did you go? You were gone for hours," because it's now dark, and it was getting close to dusk when this happened. And they're like, "We just stayed here." They were like, "We just stayed here waiting for you. We sent people out." Now, when Chris left to go, you know how kids are always like, "No, I'll stay here." But then when dad or mom goes, immediately they're like, "Well, I'm going to go with my mom. I'm going to go with
totally,
my dad."
yes.
Okay. Well, that's what happened with Chris's boy. And when he got to that corner, he saw these little gray beings walking up the hill. And then the beings saw him and started chasing him. And he ended up hiding almost like in a briar patch by some trees and some wood. And these beings apparently didn't see him, or that's at least what we think happened. And like, they were worried, they were scared. And Chris didn't know what was happening because,
he was out of it. He was in the orb.
He was gone. And then Chris started an argument with his team. He's like, "Guys, I was only 20 minutes. I walked up to my vehicle. I come back, and it's 20 minutes." They're like, "Chris, it's 4 hours. Look at your watch." Right? And that's kind of what started the whole Chris Bledsoe affair, where he is one of the top contactees that's being studied by universities, by the United States government. The Vatican has looked into him. And everything. It's been absolutely crazy.
Well, that and other stories that are similar, in particular with the little gray beings that are sort of nondescript, usually smaller than a human. I've seen drawings in old fairy books from like the Victorian era of things that look not unlike the sketches that people make of these grays or whatever you want to call them. So that's the kind of thing, again, where I think, have we actually just been having these encounters, but they've been explained away by different cultures in different ways over the years? And the time, that time slip, that whole kind of like absence of time, that's a signature characteristic of falling asleep. And also, Dave, all those warnings about not falling asleep on the fairy mound and not going in certain deep, dark places of the woods. And, I've thought that actually, I often thought that was a way of sort of keeping people away from like toxic plants and things like that to a certain extent. But I mean, it could also be that is, stay away from the ley lines, because that's what, these kind of beings are attracted to. I actually find that very fascinating. And I think that the kind of modern UFO community probably doesn't look at the fairy kingdom as much as people who look at the fairy kingdom are looking at the modern UFO. And I am not here to say it's one or the other. I just think there's some amazing parallels that are pretty difficult. I mean, it kind of comes down to vernacular and then whatever's happening in the times. So it may be an encounter on a lone dirt road, or it may be an encounter on a lone dirt road. It always seems to be a lone dirt road. It's just like happens all the time, right? Or like the top of a precipice. I mean, the thing, I have had a couple of UFO experiences myself, and they have a different feeling to me than some of the paranormal encounters that I've had. Not necessarily a negative, but I did have one UFO experience when I was a teenager that we ran from. So I guess that counts as being freaked out, right? And scared. If you're like, let's get the heck out of here. Like, we know we shouldn't stay here anymore. It's getting closer. But, so I'm certainly by no means saying they're all the same thing, but there's a lot of interesting parallels, I think, especially with the way that some of those creatures are described. They sound a lot like some of the fairies.
Varla, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we have Varla Ventura for another half an hour here on Spaced Out Radio. At the bottom of hour number 3, it'll be Dave 101. UFOs in Canada. There's some BS going on, and we're going to talk about it.
Uh-oh.
Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. All right, we're clear.
Okay.
Jay Fox Hunter, how are you? Jeff Steve Garvey, batting 1,000. Mr. Cowley, welcome back to the show. Oh, Mr. Cowley loves his spaced out radio. That's all I got.
That's pretty good.
Mm-hmm. I think so.
It works.
It totally works.
Pretty close to the original.
I realize I mean, you can't do Ozzy too much, but
yeah, you can't have too much Ozzy is what I always say.
Oh my God. My son has been driving me nuts about Ozzy and Black Sabbath, and I've never really listened to Ozzy or Black Sabbath. Not that I don't like them, but I've just never really got into them. And so he's been drilling me lately, and I'm like, I don't know. I said, son, go on YouTube. You know more than I do, right?
Go on YouTube. Type in War Pigs.
Oh, I love that song.
Tell them to type in War Pigs.
Come on, let's sing it with me. Ready? Generals gather in their masses.
Just like witches at black masses.
Evil minds to plot destruction.
Sorcerer of death construction. I think that's the words. Oh, Lord, child.
In the fields of bodies burning. As the
war machine keeps turning.
Oh, yeah. There we go.
It's pretty good.
Can Varla sing Dankeschön for us?
No.
Dankeschön. Varla, Dankeschön.
I cannot.
Mm-hmm. That's all I got. Donald Stevens, how are you?
That's all I got, too. That's all I know of it. I mean, that's...
Terrible Times, how are you? Welcome. Let's see here. I only sing twice. Actually, 3 times on this show. I sing for Mr. Cowley. I sing for Square Hammer. And I sing for, what's her name? Zoe Buttercup. That's it. I go like 3 amigos at Zoe Buttercup. My Zoe Buttercup has the cutest smile. And then of course Square Hammer. That's after he's named after a ghost song. So, are you on the square? Are you on the level? Are you ready to stand right here, right now? Now, the song says before the devil, but I say before your Davo, right?
Oh, yeah, I heard you sing the Davo part earlier.
Yeah, so I know I'm not the best singer. I know I suck, but that's okay. It's my show, and I'm allowed to do it.
Yeah, do whatever the hell you want.
It's my party, and I can cry if I want to.
That's right.
Exactly.
What'd I miss?
Nothing.
Time slip. Sorry, time slip.
Time slip for sure. All right, we got about 2.5 minutes here, or 2 minutes. Now we got 2 minutes.
What are we going to do?
Where do we go?
What do we do
Where
for
do
2
we
minutes?
go now?
Ah!
Where do we go? Where do we go now? Where do we go? You got to update your bio.
You need to update my bio.
I'll write you a bio.
I have a not updated bio I can send you.
Hi, Chillin' Villain. How are you? Because the bio I use still has that your book is coming out in 2018.
Yeah, I've sent you a more recent
You
bio.
have not.
Surely.
You so have
okay,
not.
I shall send it to you.
There's my man, Super Quest. Super Quest will be on the round table tomorrow night, hanging out with us.
Well, I've written a more recent bio. I may not have sent it to you, but I definitely have it written.
My God. The writer can't even write her own bio.
No, it's written. I just can't email it, apparently. It's been written. Mm-hmm. 2 years now. I didn't realize you had an old bio.
Yeah, I'm probably going to need a new one.
Yeah. Varla is an awesome singer.
Varla Ventura is
she loves gnomes.
She loves the best. She's the best, and she loves
gnomes and shadow people.
Yeah, and she will literally Pooka the hell out of you.
Easily.
She will Pooka the hell out of you. Hi, sweet Susan B. How are you? All right, chat room's moving fast. If you got questions for Varla, retype them in the chat room if you don't mind. It's your fault.
Help us out here.
Yeah, help us out. Help a Davey out. Help a Davey out. All right, big thank you to Spooky, to Michelle, G West, Dirt Road, Sally, Ibarata, and Andrew for the amazing super chats tonight. Very much thankful for your love and support of Spaced Out Radio on a nightly basis. Good morning to you, Joey Hayes. Thank you to all the veterans who are tuning on in. We love you. You always have a safe home here. And, of course, to all of our regulars, we love you and thank you for being here, having a good time with us. Here we go, everyone. 3 seconds.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Wherever you are in this beautiful planet we call Earth, want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. What you got to do is go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Balbutiant. Balbutiant is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. For the final time tonight, we introduce Varla Ventura. VarlaVentura.net is her website. You can find all of her books at any major bookstore. I don't know what's funny about your website, Varla.
You always kind of say it like .net, like I blew it because I didn't get .com.
You totally blew it. You
totally I totally blew it.
You totally blew
point
it.
That out.
Well, if I say .com, they're not going to your site.
I don't know what happens if you go to varlaventura.com.
Now
It used to be .com. Look, can I just say what happened? Okay. Well, actually, it doesn't make me look very good, so maybe I'll skip the story. But it used to be .com, and then for reasons that are not that great, I let it lapse. And then someone tried to sell it back to me for like $5,000. And actually, it wasn't entirely my fault. I thought it was a misunderstanding, which is why it's so lame. I thought the publisher was going to renew it. And they, of course, weren't and didn't. So I like to tell people I chose .net because it's like a spider web. But we all know that I I blew it and didn't
Well,
get the
VarlaVentura.com is available right now.
It is? Oh, I'm not valuable anymore. Maybe I should buy it.
Now, if you buy it, it's at $1,895.
Oh my! It's a bargain.
It's a bargain. It's a bargain. I
dare someone to buy it.
I checked out. We go through GoDaddy for our web domain, and I checked out and buying it. I was like, no.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's like, it doesn't even... How can you pay that much for something that doesn't actually technically exist?
I know. It's like people paying millions of dollars for these NFT cards. These online trading cards.
Yeah, what's happening? What is happening with that? I don't even I
got a buddy of mine, he's all into that. He's like, yeah, man, I just spent like $2,500 on this NFT card. And I'm like, what the hell is that?
You know what? That is the emperor's new clothes, is what's going on right there. Oh, you look great, sir.
My goodness.
You're invisible. It's crazy.
I don't get it. I do not get it whatsoever. Blows my mind.
I mean, like, I understand it on paper. Like, okay, Bitcoin, yeah, I understand what that is, but I don't really understand what that is, or what. Actually, I don't understand why it is. And don't try and explain it to me, because I don't care.
All right. Tony wants to know, have you ever traveled to West Wales in the United Kingdom?
I have not, but actually Wales is on I'm trying to plan a trip right now, COVID willing, to Wales, and it'll be Wales, and then I want to take my son on the ferry over to Ireland that way. So I haven't, but I'd like to.
Where would you like to go to search for cryptids?
Like, if I could go anywhere
outside
in the world?
Outside of North America. Give me your top 3.
Okay, outside of North America to search for cryptids. Russia.
What do you want to see there?
Anything. I'd like to go into into the Siberian forests and take a pulse or two there. I think there's a lot of incredibly interesting creatures hiding in the Siberian kind of and northern Russian forests. So I've read a lot about that Russian folklore, so that's pretty interesting to me. I would love... There's some places in Japan I'd like to check out. This is probably horrible and morbid to say, but I totally want to go to that suicide forest.
Me too.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I'm in.
And then
I'm in on
outside
that
of North America, Las Vegas. That doesn't count, right? That's nowhere. Yeah, and actually, I think Central or South America. I actually have quite a few friends. When I lived in San Francisco, I used to go to this place all the time, and it was like a little gathering, and we would share kind of stories. And a lot of the people who came were from Central America, specifically several people from El Salvador, and they had some really interesting cryptid stories about legends and things that were out in the fields and stuff. So that I would put that on my bucket list.
If I were to go anywhere, I would love to go to Russia to see if the woolly,
me too.
To see if the woolly mammoths are still there, because I think they are.
Okay.
I do believe they are there. I would love to go to Iceland to see to see the little people, the little gnomes there.
Yeah.
Or the
Those
leprechauns.
are the fairies. Those are totally the fairies.
Yeah, I want to see that stuff.
They would see you.
Yeah. And I just have always been interested in it.
Good choice.
I would love to. And I would love to, I cannot believe I'm saying this. Okay.
What are you going to say?
I would love to go to South Africa to look for a megalodon. And right by that seal island.
That is definitely not what I thought you were going to say, but okay.
Yeah, I would love to go look for a megalodon. The ship would have to be at least 250, 300 feet long. At least. I'm not getting in some dinghy where great whites are jumping 10 feet, 15 feet out of the air. You know,
No, you need a water fortress.
yes, yes. I need
Oh,
I need
yeah.
an American warship to go on and go look
Yeah.
for these mega sharks that
I
are
can't
out there.
believe you actually are saying that.
I know.
Yeah. Because but since you said that, and we have so many Australian listeners, obviously we want to go to Australia, and in particular we want to look for mermaids in Australia.
No, but everything kills you in Australia. And there's not
mermaids don't necessarily. I know I said earlier that they were evil and they probably would kill you, but I've heard a lot of great stories about mermaids from my Australian friends, and mermaids being very helpful and guiding you back to you do want to go there. Yes, you do.
No, I don't want any part of that.
Glass bottom boat, man.
You go on the mainland of Australia, everything wants to kill you, from the snakes to the bugs to the kangaroos. Okay.
Can our Australians weigh in on this?
Yeah, you cannot dip your toe in fresh water, because the crocodiles and the bull sharks that are swimming up that region are going to kill you. Okay, the spiders are going to kill you. You know, they got snakes coming out of the toilets, giving your hiney a little lick before they bite you in the balls.
Spiders will kill you, and I mean, I don't know if you have venomous spiders where you live, but where I grew up in California, there's all kinds of things like that could kill you. Rattlesnakes, there's poisonous spiders, there's, black widows and the brown recluse.
Nope. All I'm saying is, like Ozzy Steve says, kangaroos in kind, Dave. They'll all kill you.
Okay, well,
Absolutely. You can't go in any water there because the sharks will get you. The crocodiles will get you. Can't go in the ocean.
Can't go in any water anywhere.
Can't go in the ocean because there's about 45 different species of shark that are waiting for some fat Canadian to come on in the water and jump on in.
A beacon of light.
Oh, Michelle here in Australia says, only magpies really want to kill you, Dave. And the box jellyfish. See?
Oh, yeah, the box jellyfish. Yes, one must be very careful.
Absolutely. It's a death trap down there. The animals are a complete death trap. It's terrible. Not going.
Totally want to go.
Totally not going.
Totally going.
I would
1, 2, 3, going.
I would also like to go to. There's no way you could ever get there, but the Congo, to see if Mokele Mbembe, the big dinosaur, is still there.
Yeah.
But the problem is that area is so unsafe with tribal warlords and everything.
I would say I can't think of anywhere I wouldn't want to go, and probably would go if the opportunity presented itself. Mm-hmm. But I do think there are places that I would feel unsafe traveling by myself, in particular if I was going deep into the woods alone. And those include my home state, Like there's lots of places around here I wouldn't go.
No, there's just too much that could kill you.
It's the humans that bother me. I'm way more afraid of some creeper dude than I am of a megalodon. Honestly.
No. I'm not taking that chance. I am so not taking that chance.
You put it on your list.
I did put it on my list.
I didn't say megalodon.
But hey, I have.
I was like, chill. Let's go to Central America, man. And you're like, yeah, let's go to.
I definitely. If I go out for this, we are bringing the USS Missouri out of decommission. We're loading up the cannons, because if Megalodon comes to try and bite the ship in half, okay, we're going to blow that sucker right out of the water. We are. All right? I would feel safe on there.
Yeah.
Okay? I would feel safe. And not going in any helicopters over water just in case there's trouble. Okay? Because that means you're going to die. Right? One way or another. Helicopter crash or shark landing in shark-infested waters, you're going to die. So, got to stay on the ship It's got to be the minimum size of the USS Missouri, just as armed, and then I'll go look for Megalodon.
Yeah, okay. Sounds fun to me.
Yep. I think it works.
Can I get a balcony suite?
Maybe. But we're going. We're going.
Yeah.
Make it happen. Those are mine. Those are
Flee.
mine. Then everything else in Australia will kill you. It's just
Sounds
that simple.
good. Sounds fun.
All right. Evil Jim. Varla Ventura, will you help turn me into a living Japanese mummy?
No, I will not.
She'll be on trial for murder then. Murder. And
no, it says living. He doesn't say living. And I have some ideas about how that could work, but no.
All right.
No, Jim, I can't.
I don't even know.
Oh, I think he just wants to be wrapped very tightly in bandages.
That is a very twisted fantasy right there.
It says living Japanese mummy.
It says the glow-in-the-dark ghoul of Skylight Boulevard Santa Cruz. Maybe this is what he wants to be, a glow-in-the-dark one.
Oh, yeah, that's easy. You just paint the bandages. Just roll with it. Get it?
Once
bandages,
again, way above my pay scale. Way above my pay scale. Varla Ventura.
I'm going to need an advance on that one.
Yeah. Okay.
I need to see your money up front, Jim.
In North America, outside of the popular one being Bigfoot, what do you want to see cryptid-wise? Give me your top three.
I can't say Bigfoot. Did you say I couldn't?
Yeah, I'll
say
let
Bigfoot?
you say Bigfoot.
Because I haven't seen Bigfoot. I'm not like cool people around here.
But everybody says Bigfoot. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, well, not Bigfoot then. So I'm convinced that Dogman is actually is related to like werewolves. I think we gotten into this hotbed cryptid debate before. So I would love to actually see a Dogman and either be proved right or be proved wrong. So that's up there for me. And for that note, I mean, let's throw werewolf in there because then I could compare and contrast in the moonlight if I think they're related. I don't know. What else would I want to see? I guess I can't say Bigfoot. Everyone says Bigfoot.
I'll let you have Bigfoot.
I would love to see Bigfoot. I've never seen
Bigfoot.
Bigfoot. And I'll tell you, it's not like I haven't been places where there have been Bigfoot sightings. I mean, yes, I lived a good portion of my life in a city, but I spent a lot of time as a teenager in particular in the woods and in some really, really abandoned old growth woods where honestly all us teens should have been slaughtered where we were by some bear based on the lack. I mean, this was before cell phones even. I don't even know what we were thinking. And I feel like going back there would be, there's a particular place in California that I think definitely could see some Bigfoot there. But beyond that, actually, the other night I had this really kind of freaky dream, and I woke up thinking, like, I wonder if that's what Mothman is. I wouldn't mind checking out the Mothman situation. I find that pretty interesting. The first time I heard about some of the Mothman stuff, I actually was very skeptical and was like, what? That's ridiculous. And then I dug a little bit deeper, and then, oh God, is it Lyle Blackburn? It's Lyle Blackburn, yes. Right? Yeah. Then I paid attention to some of the things he was working on, and the stories when you read the stories, they're not as crazy as they seem if you just see like the Cliff Note flash version of what Mothman was. And it's also very interesting that a lot of the Mothman stuff kind of happens around this area that was like this abandoned, I can't remember what it was. It was like some kind of abandoned factory plant, toxic waste place. Mothman? Let's go with Mothman. Or Mothwoman.
My 3 would be Dogman. I want to see Dogman.
Yeah, and then you'd be like, whoa, that's what a werewolf looks like.
I do not want to get close to it, but I do want to see a Dogman.
Like, you want to see it, like, galloping off in the distance, right? Like, across the meadow, away from your tent. No,
I would even go I just want to see it from my vehicle. I want to be driving down. I want to be driving down one of these freaky roads.
It's like a cryptid safari park.
Absolutely.
Like you're driving through. That'd be great. We should make that movie, Dave.
I would love to see gnomes or little people.
I thought you've seen gnomes.
Well, I've seen that one little creature in the forest when my son and I were geocaching.
Yeah.
But it was so fleeting.
You want to see something like that again.
I want to see it again. But I actually want to see, the little pointy hats. Just like the pointy hats and the little outfits. I want to see.
You've got to go to Finland.
I want to see that. And probably my third one that I would want to see is probably a sea monster. Okay? Like Ogopogo or Champ. Something along those lines.
Yeah, totally. Or even Loch Ness. I'd be super happy with Loch Ness. That would be great. Yeah. How could I forget about Loch Ness? Obviously.
Bonus would be, this is I'm going to put a forward slash in between, would be a pterodactyl or one of these little, how in Texas, Louisiana, Mexico, they're saying there's these little raptors or little T-Rexes running around. I would love to see one of those.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, those are, I that would all be absolutely amazing. I can't believe I forgot about, like, sea monsters. They'd be totally way up there.
Hey.
Oh, and if we're talking about things that kind of fall in that, like, cryptid fairy umbrella, I actually would love to encounter a Pooka. And I think that I probably deserve to encounter a Pooka because at this point I have gone the wrong path plenty of times. So I feel like, how come the Pooka hasn't, like, manifested? People out there, if you don't know what a Pooka is, it's a shape-shifting fairy. It's usually a trickster, appears frequently on the road at night, and also preys upon town drunks or people who are otherwise unreliable sources of information. So I say town drunk just because it's someone whose account of something might be dismissed. I think we're all pretty familiar with that. I mean, as a member of the UFO community, you've seen that and experienced that many times, I'm sure, Dave, where people are dismissed as being, like, kooky or crazy. Yes. And the Pooka is usually appears as a giant rabbit, sometimes as a raging black horse with glowing red eyes. Sounds, like, terrifying, but also they don't really kill you, so also kind of fun, like a giant roller coaster type thing. So I don't know. I mean, some of those creatures, it's like I would like to know that they exist with my own eyes, but I wouldn't necessarily, like, trust me, you do not want to hear a banshee.
So Captain Shirk, as our time is winding out, but when she sends me a private message, I always have to read it on the air. She goes, "You want to see a sea monster when you won't put your toe in the water? You're going to have to settle for a blow-up monster for the bathtub." Just boom. Drops an elbow on me just like that.
It's a good point, and also the whole Megalodon thing, like, that's, I don't know, just kind of breaking out
Missouri.
Here.
It's armed and dangerous.
It isn't a warship.
Tell us all about varlaventura.net as we get ready to say goodnight.
Oh, don't mind if I do. Okay, so varlaventura.net. You can get cool stuff there, amazing mugs and hilarious shirts. You can get my books there or anywhere books are sold. You, I believe, can message me there, or you can not. And I think you can. I think there's like a link to email there. And that's where I kind of put big announcements. And then on, you just follow me on Facebook or like me on Facebook or whatever it is. And that's where I put more current announcements. Although I completely forgot Facebook existed this week. So I haven't been on there at all. Yeah, you can find me, wherever you search my name and I show up, except for at varlaventura.com.
Right on. Now, next month, when you're on the show, you'll be on a week earlier. But Varla, we absolutely love you here on Spaced Out Radio. VarlaVentura.net. Get all of her books at every major bookstore. Coming up next, Dave 101. What's been hiding when it comes to UFOs in Canada? I got you covered next. We'll get to the news and the thought of the day as well. Stay tuned. Spaced Out Radio continues after this. Varla Ventura, everybody.
Varla Ventura. Thanks.
I think we need to add a silent J.
That was fun. I like that we had no plan, and yet here we are.
We pulled out a good show.
Yeah, that was fun. I love people's questions, and that's a great question. What cryptid do you want to see the most, and where do you want to go? And it can't be like in your own backyard. That's a great question. I can't believe I didn't say Loch Ness.
I came up with that.
Yeah, I'm really impressed. Well, you know what? That's because you're high-hitting journalism.
Yeah.
You are. You're a total professional. Look, Dave, I'm on a lot of shows, and you're way, way more professional than, like, a lot of people. So,
yeah, I try.
My humble opinion.
I try. I have my critics, but I try.
Yeah. I think if you did it like you did like Scandinavia kind of, and then up into like Finland and the most northern parts of Norway, if you did that around the solstice, the summer solstice, when it never gets dark, and then you like cruised on down into Russia after that, and then you sort of like, if you did it like a big, long, slow, like a 6-month cycle, and then ended up in Ireland for Halloween, like then I think you'd have to see all the things. There'd be so many little things.
Oh yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you on that.
There's this cave. The last time I was in Ireland, there's this cave, and the guy who was like kind of in charge of this museum that told you where everything was, you had to pre-arrange to go in this cave. And of course, like I hadn't thought I had to pre-arrange anything. And I had my son with me, and it was like, I'm not sure if it's safe for a tiny little guy to like slide down into this cave that is supposed to be the portal to the underworld. So maybe we'll hold off this time and plan ahead next time. Get a little sitter for you. Or he'll be older and he'll want to go too. But anyway, I would love to go back to this place, and actually, now that I know you can pre-arrange to go into this cave that's a portal to the underworld and supposedly where Halloween started, I'd love to go back there and just, see what happens.
I would love to see what happens there too.
Yeah.
Caves scare me. They really do.
I know. I'm a little claustrophobic. I like being in caves. I like the darkness and vastness of caves, but the getting into it, if there's a small opening in any way, I'm actually extremely claustrophobic. Just thinking about it is actually making me really uncomfortable.
Yeah. And I don't have a head the size of Fap's, but I got a large melon.
Does Fap really have a large head?
Yes, he does. Self-admitted.
Okay.
And
as long as it's self-admitted.
And long story short, when I see some of these people go through these caves where, like they got to squeeze their body through, I always think that I'm going to get stuck. There is no friggin' way I am ever going in there. Ever. Actually,
just when you said squeezing your body through a small area, my heart actually started like racing.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Because it really does, like, there's just... I have been in some of those like caverns, where you like they do the tours and stuff, and I've been in those as a kid, and I've been in like caves that have a larger opening, where you can kind of like wander around. But I don't think I could go in anything. There's no.
And you see all the caves up here in the mountains here, you don't go in.
Because they're like old mines that could collapse?
No, it's the big cats that use them as homes, the grizzly bears, the black bears that use them as homes. Yeah.
That's a good reason to not go in.
Not going in there whatsoever. I got a minute to go here.
Okay.
Much
Bye.
love.
Love you. Thank you.
Take care. And our audience loves you too, and they think you're the best.
But they're the best, really.
You got great teeth too, by the way. Great teeth. Look at those teeth.
Kind of sharp, yeah.
All right, buddy. You take care.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Varla Ventura, everybody. How awesome is she? Thank you, Cat Chaser, for that super chat. Thank you. I'm going to sneeze here. Hold on. Sorry about that. And thank you also to Michelle in Australia. Thank you to G West, Dirt Road, Sally, Ibarata, and Andrew for the amazing super chats tonight. Thank you to all the veterans tuning on in. And we're going to kick off things with the Dave 101 coming up here momentarily. So let's hang on out here. We grounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. We want to remind you that if you've missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. It is time for Dave 101.
It's time for Dave 101.
All right, earlier this week, a Canadian writer, Daniel Otis, from Vice magazine, wrote a fantastic article on UFOs in Canada. His main focus was of a civilian investigator named Chris Rutkowski. Now, many in the UFO field may know who Chris Rutkowski is. He's been around forever. He has been providing statistics over the years, very, very detailed and oriented, about Canadian UFO sightings annually. But is there a little bit of controversy surrounding the work of Mr. Rutkowski? No, not from him, but from how he is getting his information. As Daniel Otis put out, Chris Rutkowski, and I'm going to quote from the article here, one of the country's most prominent ufologists, has been covering Canadian cases for more than 30 years, but has never fully disclosed the ties. What are those ties? Well, it's come out that Mr. Rutkowski has been getting reports over the last few decades straight from the Canadian Department of National Defense. So what is the issue with this? Well, let me tell you. A number of Canadian UFO researchers have tried their darndest through FOIA requests and other types of information in trying to get UFOs and the UFO studies out of the Canadian military and the Canadian government, only to be cast aside, stating that the information wasn't there, it wasn't being collected, We don't know what you're asking for. Could you be more specific, please? Some were not even returned. And it led to a lot of frustration because for some reason, this topic remains very taboo in Canada's capital of Ottawa. Why? We don't know. Is it the tie to NORAD that Canada has? Is it tied to the group of 5 countries that Canada shares UFO information with, including the United States and Great Britain? We do not know. Does Canada have a UFO desk, much like ATIP? We don't know. We don't think so, but we don't know. The late Paul Hellyer once told me on an email he believes there is a desk somewhere in Ottawa that includes NAV Canada, government officials, and the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. But the interesting part about Chris Rutkowski is this is a man who does not like talking publicly about UFOs. This is self-admitted in the article on his part. He doesn't like doing interviews, even though he will do them every now and again. He doesn't like being quoted, even though he will do it for certain articles. He doesn't want to be a part of the UFO scene, even though he is getting his information directly from the Department of National Defense. So how does this happen? I have a source in Ottawa who I talked to today regarding this. And this person who has some credibility within government stated that he felt it was a very strong concern that Mr. Rutkowski was the only one getting information. You see, this person himself has put in FOIA requests that have been denied by the federal government or the Department of National Defense or other jurisdictions that may have an interest in this subject. How can someone in Ottawa who works in the government for the government be denied, and yet Chris Rutkowski is able to get these reports? Now, some things I learned about this. Number one, Chris Rutkowski does not have a security clearance or has not been given one by the Department of National Defense regarding this subject. Number two, highly classified information regarding UFOs and interaction, potentially with extraterrestrials, has not been given to him either. He has been given everything else. All the low-level reports that are still being denied to other researchers and even members of Parliament themselves. So what makes Chris Rutkowski so special about this? Sure, he's a credible researcher. Sure, he probably has never asked for much in return. But he is a citizen, just like I am, just like many who are listening in our chat rooms and around the world on this. We are citizens. What makes this citizen so special that the Department of National Defense has chosen him to give the information to and no one else? Is it because he works for the University of Manitoba? Is it because when he retires or passes away, he plans on donating all of his files to the university? We don't know. This is something that is systemic in Canada right now. And with all the political upheaval coming off an election, UFOs, which were not talked about during the election run, are way, way, way down the back burner. Look, it is dangerous when you ask for something and you don't get it, yet you know somebody else has it. Reporter Daniel Otis feels this has happened to him in this case, where he has asked for certain information only to get it from Chris Rutkowski and not the main source of the Department of National Defense. Now, for Rutkowski's part, he doesn't see anything wrong with this. Well, and why should he? He's the one getting the information. He's the one who's being handed all of these reports. And by those reports, We know that some of them are even military reports. How does he get it? We don't know. Now, I may sound like I'm repeating myself on this, but this is a major, major issue that not only has to be brought up in the media in Canada, thanks to Daniel Otis, but it also has to be brought up in Ottawa as to why other people in the country are being denied access to some of these reports. Back to Daniel's article, there's a section called Handshake Agreement. Often billed as the country's foremost UFO expert, Rutkowski is the author of 10 books on the subject and the founder of the Canadian UFO Survey, which has documented more than 22,000 sightings since 1989. While the science writer has mentioned receiving reports from the military in his survey and speaking engagements, he's never gone in depth about the exclusive 2-decade arrangement. Rutkowski is quoted in the article as saying, "I tend not to talk about my UFO research publicly, but I do talk about UFOs publicly. It's a subtle distinction." It's interesting that he even admits that he was surprised that he received a call from the military asking, "Hey, do you want these reports?" They handed it to them. Think about that. The military handed UFO reports to an average citizen. Rutkowski goes on to say, "I don't recall the name of the person who initially phoned me more than 20 years ago. All that was discussed on a brief phone call was verification that I was the person that had wanted to receive UFO reports." Now, a spokesperson for the Canada's Department of National Defence in this article that Daniel wrote described it as a handshake agreement with a known responsible and published researcher of UFOs. That's been passed to Rutkowski. Rutkowski says, "I have no illusions that I receive all official UFO reports. I receive relatively low classified reports with no security concerns." He goes, "I didn't start out wanting to be Canada's UFO expert. I just plugged away trying to understand what was really going on." Now, Rutkowski's a smart man. He holds a degree in science and education from the University of Manitoba. Still works for the university in a communications role. But why can other Canadians not get their hands on these reports? What makes him so special? Look, I'm not trying to take down Rutkowski as a person or as a researcher. He has done great detailed work. He's been on this show a couple of times. But it should be grating all Canadians and other researchers who've been denied access to those same reports, including the writer of this article, Daniel Otis, Grant Cameron, Ryan Stacey, Victor Vigiani, to name a few. The military says the decision to provide Mr. Rutkowski with these reports was an informal process and was done as a courtesy to encourage Mr. Rutkowski in his research for his fiction novels, a spokesperson said. Why would you give real reports for fiction novels? There seems to be something missing here. Are you catching what I'm saying? There is something major missing here. And once again, this isn't a slight at Mr. Rutkowski. This is a slight at the process that others are being denied these reports. What is so special about them? Why can't I have them? Why can't Daniel Otis have them? Why not put out a press release for anybody in Canada, or the world for that matter, that could have them? Look, there is a lot of UFO secrets in this Canadian world. We know they don't talk about it. And the Canadian government is famous, doesn't matter which party is in, is famous for if we don't talk about it, it doesn't exist. And as relaxed as most Canadians are, they go for it. They fall for it. It's okay with them. We also know that the RCMP are very involved in UFO reports that they end up turning over to NORAD, which means that every Canadian who files a UFO report with the RCMP will have their information turned over to both the Canadian and American military. We know that Canada's former ambassador, David McNaughton, met with Lou Elizondo's successor at the Pentagon to discuss UFOs in 2019, sometime between August and December. We know that he flew back to Ottawa in order to debrief both the Defense Minister, Harjit Sajjan, and likely Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. There are people in the know about this subject. This subject has come forward. But in Canada's don't ask, don't tell policy, we can't believe a thing that is coming out of the Canadian government regarding this. And it does provide more questions and answers. So I do challenge members of other parties in Canada, whether it's the Conservatives, whether it's the NDP, or anybody else in the House of Commons, to ask some questions regarding this. Now, granted, since there was just an election, they are going to have to make sure who the new Department of, or the minister in charge of the Department of National Defense will be. But as soon as that is done, these questions have to be asked. Why does Chris Rutkowski get the reports and other people, same type of citizen, or government officials, are being denied the reports? Something is fishy here, and we got to get to the bottom of it. Because apparently this shows that Canada knows, and the Defense Department also doesn't care that it's handing reports to a citizen. That is your Dave 101. Let's get to the news. The news is always changing. That's why we bring you the SOR Newswire at the back end of every show, where we get to the weird, the strange, the wacky, and sometimes the pretty odd. Yep. Here we go. 2 men were caught trying to enter New Zealand with a truck full of Kentucky Fried Chicken and $100,000. The men were arrested at the Auckland border after police noticed a suspicious vehicle attempting to make a U-turn and speeding off to evade them. Auckland is under a level 4 lockdown, and it prohibits restaurants from opening and requires them to stay home outside of essential needs and services. Police were patrolling the back roads near the outskirts of Auckland and did eventually pull the men over. The pair told police that they were heading to Hamilton, a city about a half-hour drive from Auckland.
Sorry, I missed that.
And Siri thought I said something there. They searched the car, and what they found in the trunk was literally pounds upon pounds upon pounds of KFC. They found $100,000 in cash and empty ounce bags. I think they're drug dealers. According to pictures, the KFC haul had at least 3 buckets of chicken, a large amount of fries, 10 containers of coleslaw, and other menu items as well. Holy coleslaw, Batman. That's horrible. Who writes this? Not to mention the 100,000 in New Zealand money, which equates to about 70 grand US. The men, aged 23 and 30, were to appear in court at a later date for breaking lockdown orders. The level 4 lockdown is set to move down soon to a level 3, meaning that residents will be permitted to commute to work and school. The rest of the country is at a level 2 lockdown, so restaurants and bars are open and residents are allowed to leave their homes. According to the Ministry of Health, Auckland currently has 35 active COVID-19 cases. In Auckland, 86 people have been charged with a total of 90 offenses regarding the level 4 lockdowns. That's not the only craziness involving KFC. Back in October 2020, a man fired shots into a Kentucky Fried Chicken over the wrong order. That's taking your chicken just a little too seriously, is it not? Moving on, imagine the panic in this father. A dad jumped right into action when he realized that his young toddler was playing with a huge tarantula that was caught on video by the family's backyard camera. David Lehman of Tucson said he walked in the backyard earlier this month. He noticed his 18-month-old daughter Blake was sitting on the ground playing with a coffee can. When he asked her what she was playing with, her response, in a cute toddler way, bug. She's just learning how to talk, you see. She's 1.5. Right now, there's a bunch of beetles everywhere, so when she said bug, I'm thinking, oh, cool, you caught one of them beetles. Oh, no. No, not at all. When she showed her daddy what she had caught, it wasn't a bug. It was a giant tarantula, about the size of the baby's hand. As soon as Blake shows Lehman the bug, Lehman immediately screamed and jumped, leaving his kid there, knocking the coffee can out of his daughter's hand. And then the baby grip kicked in. She didn't let go. Yep. No words, though. Hey, baby's safe. Nobody got bit. Tarantula's still alive. Run off somewhere. Now it's probably in the kid's closet. Who knows? Thought of the day is as follows. If you were a ghost, who would you want to haunt and why? Start with Cassie. All of my exes who don't live in Texas and my ex's new wife. I'd make her crap herself. Oh, Cassie, that's a little rude. Nikki, evil little laugh. What a thought. Ooh, what a thought. The amount of people one could screw with. Vincent, I'd haunt Dave Scott with the smell of bacon and eggs with coffee right before summertime. Terrible, Vincent. Terrible. Carol, there is only one person I shall not name, but as Cassie said, I would make them crap themselves. What's with all the crap? I don't know. Catherine, haunt my ex. Always leave all their cabinets and drawers open. Chris, the local chicken joint. Smell of fresh chicken nuggets is my heaven. Anne, I'd haunt really bad ghosts back. That's your thought of the day. Thank you to Captain Shirk for the Newswire. Thank you to everyone listening to the thought of the day and everything. And of course, Varla Ventura being an awesome guest once again. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, LGAB, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, StreamYard, and on Twitter at #SpacedOutRadio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
make a mistake, we're watching.
We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night.